Welcome back to my channel. I am back with another review, so if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you know every time I upload a new video. A lot went down in this episode, so let's just get right into this review. So on this week's episode of Bad vs. Wild, we have the Baddies versus the Bad Girls Club, with Natalie leading the Baddies team and Megan James leading the Bad Girls Club team. Now on Natalie's team, which is the Baddies side, she has Rollie, Scotty, Mariah Lynn, Tasiki, Sydney Star, and Saya. And then on Megan's team, which is the Bad Girls Club team, she has Kat, Bree, Seven, Low London, Janelle, and Jayla. And look, I was rooting for the Bad Girls Club team because I like the Bad Girls Club better than I like the show Baddies. But I do think that it's really cool that Natalie is able to bring a lot of the girls who were on the Bad Girls Club into the Zeus Network to get some shine and to make some money. I think that that's great. But I'm not gonna lie, I was actually surprised to see Sydney Star there because Natalie doesn't really like Sydney Star. It was very clear to me that Natalie doesn't really like Sydney. But at the end of the day, I think Zeus knows that Sydney can be very entertaining, and that's the reason why they asked Sydney to come back. I think everybody looked really good too, more so the girls on the Bad Girls Club side, because they just look great. None of them look like they've aged a bit since their seasons of the Bad Girls Club, and it was nice to see all of them come together. But I will say on this episode, they wasted a bit too much time introducing everybody to the crowd. I understand that you want everybody to get to know who the girls are on the teams, but I just feel like they spent a little bit too much time on it. And Sydney was starting really early with trying to cause some drama because Sydney ended up getting on the microphone and calling Jayla a boring bitch. Now, Jayla did not react to it, which I think is good because I feel like if you give somebody like Sydney a reaction, then Sydney's going to keep doing what Sydney does. So I think it was good that Jayla didn't really give it any attention. Now, the first game that they end up playing is Bad Bingo. And look, they had a really good time playing the game. The Bad Girls side ended up winning, but to me, they were relying on a lot of the answers that they were giving to these questions. They just really wanted to win the game, and I guess it worked because they were the ones that ended up winning. I think it was cool that all the girls from both sides were able to play this game without getting into a fight or without getting mad at each other. I think it was cool to actually watch an episode where there wasn't too much drama that went on. But I might have spoke a little bit too soon because they end up playing the second game called Name That Trick, and they call Rollie and Bree up at the same time. Now look, I don't know the beef between Rollie and Bree. I didn't even know that they had any issues with each other. So if you do know the origin of their beef, please put it in the comment section so that I can figure out why exactly the two of them ended up fighting. But as soon as Rollie got to the center of the stage, that's when Bree ended up walking up on her and she started swinging on Rollie, and she pulled Rollie's wig off and she slipped on the floor. Now, Rollie did not push her on the floor. She slipped herself. So to me, that wasn't too much of a fight. They both kind of swung on each other a little bit. And then Bree slipped on the floor and security broke up the fight. But they did end up fighting again, and this time to me, Rollie got the best of Bree, but it's only because, you know, she kept pulling Bree's hair. She was basically dragging her by the hair. Now, I'm not one of those people who say that there's rules to fighting because I really don't feel like there is. But I do feel like the reason why Rollie was able to overpower Bree in that fight is because she was really pulling her by the hair for the most part. But in the last round that Bree and Rollie ended up fighting, all of a sudden Sydney comes out of nowhere and starts hitting Rollie from the back. I think Sydney hit Rollie twice, and then ran back to the couch. And even the girls on the Bad Girls Club side were yelling at Sydney, telling Sydney that it was wrong to go after Rollie, especially while Rollie is already fighting somebody else. I didn't agree with it, and I'm glad that the other girls called Sydney out on it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Rollie ended up going over to the couch where Sydney was sitting and confronting Sydney about putting hands on her from the back, and then she ended up pushing Sydney off the couch. I don't know if that really happened because I did see Rollie over there being held back by security, and then all of a sudden Sydney fell back on the couch. I don't know if Sydney was just being dramatic or if Rollie was the one that pushed Sydney back on the couch. But because of the fighting, both Bree and Sydney were removed from the game. They had to go backstage. And look, I understand they didn't want any fighting going on, so I think it was the right move to remove them off the stage, because had they would have stayed on there would have been even more drama. And I honestly feel like this episode was pretty good because there wasn't a lot of fighting going on. The girls actually all really got along with each other. They even ended up playing this tug of war game, and then the last game that they played, they had to talk smack to each other, and actually they got along really well. There was no fighting once they removed Bree and Sydney off the stage. I thought that this was actually a really good episode. I wasn't really happy that the Baddies ended up winning. But at the end of the day, I did enjoy the episode because the girls were able to get along with each other. We got to see some of the OG bad girls, and it was just really fun to actually watch this episode. But when the game was over and they all went backstage, Sydney decided to start talking shit to Rollie again and then running up and trying to hit Rollie, and Rollie ended up basically grabbing Sydney by the hair and dropping Sydney on the floor. That was really all that Rollie had to do because Sydney can't fight, and to be honest with you, I don't think anybody, including myself, really takes the things that Sydney does seriously. So that was the end of this episode of Bad vs. Wild. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode of Bad vs. Wild down in the comment section. Don't forget to hit that like button for me. I appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos and hit the notification bell so that you know every time I upload a new video. Thank you so much to everybody who has subscribed to my channel. I appreciate you all. And until next time, I will talk to you guys in my next video.